Greetings to the best listeners. Joe here for another episode of your favorite woo topics with a never too serious style.
And this is Fioraliz. Welcome back to the Esoterics Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about tobacco and rapé as an entheogen.
Oh, good topic. Good topic. All right, let's catch up first.
Yeah. So how have you been? What's new with you?
This has been a magical week. I can talk now, tell the story that I'm expanding my readings to other metaphysical shops in the Pacific Northwest in the PDX. And I'm excited about it. And I appreciate the opportunity that I've been given at Psychic Sister. But I'm ready to reach more people. So I started reaching out to local metaphysical shops, and I've got invited to read at one, and then I got invited to read at another. So
awesome.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I consider these three shops to be sort of the trifecta of the Portland metaphysical scene. So Psychic Sister, which is in Alberta, and it's this cool like vintage clothing / bookstore, crystal store. Really cool. And then New Renaissance Books, which is like two houses that are like bookstores.
Oh, okay.
And that's, I think, probably the oldest metaphysical bookstore in Portland, I think. So it's the most, I won't say well known, but I'll say
one of the most popular.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know how to categorize it, but it's known. And then the other one is called Celestial Awakenings, and they have stores in Vancouver and Portland, and this is they focus mostly on crystals.
Okay.
And they really do have you would love all of their natural formation crystals. You'd love it there.
Yeah. I can't wait for Quartzite next year.
Right. And then you know what I was thinking? We also, I think I talked about this before. We also need to parlay that into a trip to Tucson, but that's a lot of cash required. But
it's okay. It's okay. We'll make it happen.
I know, right? I mean, same city or same state, just another drive. What, north? How far from Quartzite to Tucson?
I have from Quartzite to Tucson. Oh, I don't know. So from here to Tucson, it's 6 hours. So maybe 3 hours, because it's like halfway there.
All right.
Yeah. So we could.
Right.
We could do it. We can do it.
We're doing it. That's it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about, which is kind of cool, is that I'm also meeting with the owner of an event space, this cute like event space that I came across. I'm going to reach out and I'm going to meet with her tonight to talk, just to see what her vision is of events that she would like at the space. Your work with the Rain Cross and all of your meditations and stuff, you've inspired me to get back to doing one of the things that I love most at my studio when I had it in Lansing, which was guided meditation. So, I thought I was going to get back into work classes and workshops, but that doesn't light me up, and I just decided I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to make these meditations affordable. And right now, Portland meditations are priced in a way that are not inclusive to everybody. So I think this will be a good way to get in there.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, it's full circle though, right? Because I'm inspired by the work that you did at yours. And so it's just, it all just works in a circle. I love it.
It was fun. I love it. I don't miss, like I said, having the responsibility of a brick and mortar, but I do miss having a space to go to and be creative and welcome people in and just, really share that. So hopefully this is something that I can do. But good things are in store for us, my friend.
Awesome. Yes. I have the meditation Mondays are starting up today. We're recording Monday, which this won't air in time, but the next one will be April 17th. And then I have the full moon ceremony coming up. That's April 7th. And then I have 2 other ceremonies planned for May. One is going to be a cacao ceremony at Rain Cross. And then the other one will actually be at my home. So stay tuned. Those dates are still to be announced. But if anything comes up, we'll be announcing it here and then posting it on our pages and everything. So make sure you're following us on Instagram.
Excellent. I wish I could go to those. I really do.
We'll make one happen when you come down here again. Okay. So I need to tell you, I need to follow up with you on the story I started telling you last week.
Okay.
So last week I told you about how I was looking for information. It was my dad's birthday, and then I had this inkling to like just go online and find more, try to look for more information about our like native origins and the Kashgan natives, which is what the tribe was called. Anyway, so I told you that I found a book that was written by a girl, right?
Yes.
So when I told you at that time I was going to write her an email to thank her. So I did that because I was very compelled. I was like, this is amazing. Like, you don't understand what you've done for me. Like, as far as like, to, you know, to be able to have this information, and obviously the amount of work that she put into it. Cause that was I know that was years of her life to do all that research. So I wrote her an email, and I told her like, my dad was named this, and these were his parents, and his grandparents were named this, and I just wanted to thank you, for the work that you did, and just kind of, how I found her and all that. And then she writes me back and she says,
nice.
I knew your dad.
Shut I was up. Like, she did not.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm blown away. So then I write her back and I'm like, oh my God. So I need to know more. And so I even told her, I'm like, I told her, I'm like, because she also lives here in Riverside, just by the way. So we live in the same city. I told her.
Did you know that she lived in Riverside before you?
No,
so
I didn't.
This is just a shock to you that you're in the same city.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Because we both grew up in the same area. Which is kind of normal because for some reason, a lot of the people that came from my dad's town, they gravitated to living like in Inglewood or in Lenox, in that like south part of LA. So anyway, that's pretty normal. That's rather common. But anyway, so I told her, I'm like, let's meet for coffee or something. I would love to meet for coffee one day if you have time. So she responded back to me again, and we're third cousins.
Shut up. How does this even happen? This has been orchestrated by your dad. I just know it.
I know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it turns out we're cousins through my great grandmother's side. It's somewhere there. And then she started to tell me some things about my grandparents. She's like, I knew of your grandparents because they were the last people left who knew how to make mezquitamales, which mezquitamales is an authentic Kashgan dish. So it's a native Kashgan dish, and they were the last ones who knew how to make it. And then on my great grandmother's side, her last name was Legaspi, and the Legaspi family, somebody in that family was the last person to document the last Kashgan speaking person. Mm-hmm. Because the language died. The language is very close to Nahuatl, but it was not exact. It was intelligible. So if you spoke Nahuatl, you could understand Kashgan, but they weren't the same. And so, yeah, so someone in our own family. So she's like, you have a lot of history, and yes, I would love to meet with you. And so that's coming.
Oh my God, that's so cool. And weren't you saying like maybe a couple weeks ago that you didn't have anybody in your family that you could ask about those things because nobody likes, they don't like to talk. They're all mad at each other, not talking to each other. And you were like, I just want somebody to be able to share my history and look at this. I'm telling you what, your dad, first off, my legs are tingling, both of them. So your dad is like, okay, let's do this. Yay. Hi, Fioraliz's dad.
Yes, I'm really excited. I'm just so I've been sending this up to my sister too, and just kind of like keeping her in on the loop, like, guess what? And it's fun. So this story is probably going to continue to develop, and I'll keep you posted.
Yes, please keep us posted. And I don't know why, but I feel like there's a book in there or something, or there's some sort of writing or something.
Yeah. Okay. So here's kind of my long-term plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because her book is obviously written on the natives, right?
Right.
Like the native people and their sacred sites and their history, their origin story.
Mm-hmm.
And by spelling all of that out, she's preserving that.
Yep.
My inkling, my intention is to look into our plant medicines and understand the history behind them and document that, and hopefully one day write that into a book so that we can preserve that part of our history in that way.
Yep. Yes, and as soon as you said plant medicines, I got that sort of ooey gooey, the feeling like when the Akashics open, and so that's validation that you're supposed to do that. You're meant to do this. So there is a book in there, and I don't think that it's just going to be one book. I think that it's going to lead to a series. So that's just what's coming through for me from the Akasha.
It'll probably be plant medicines and then food, because I love food and I would love to preserve, again, more like specific parts of our food and our cuisine and all of that. So yeah, I can see that kind of evolving.
Are there any plant medicines used in food as herbs and seasonings and stuff like that you're aware of?
Herbs and seasonings,
or just included in food?
Well, so I mean, cactus is a great plant medicine, and it helps with lowering cholesterol and managing diabetes because of the amount of fiber that's in it. It helps to regulate your blood sugar levels. So, and cactus is one of our, one of our medicines. I mean, it's a medicine all throughout Mexico and North America, but yes, it's heavily utilized in our culture. And then what I was telling you earlier about the tea that you can make to help support your kidneys, which is horsetail, or in Spanish that they call it cola de caballo. That's a cola de caballo horsetail. The horsetail plant is native to the region of Mexico where my dad was from, and so that's one of the medicines that he carried with him.
Wouldn't it be fun to do a cooking retreat with
yes
yes well if I ever meet that damn future chef husband, if he ever shows up in my life, then wouldn't that be some crazy fun coincidence? Oh, hey, we're just going to do a cooking retreat in Central America, and so if you'd want to come on down.
Be our chef.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that message speaks specifically to the future chef out there. Wherever he is. Very cool, my friend. I'm excited to hear more and hear how this all plays out.
Yes, me too.
A couple of weeks ago, I was invited to participate in a round table for on a podcast. So it was a guest podcast spot on a podcast called Mystical and Mysteries. And this podcast is the love of, her name is Olivia Dybert, and she's an intuitive, but the podcast is focused on unsolved mysteries, true crime. So she's like a medical detective.
Oh, okay.
And many of you will recognize the other people on the round table. It was Milo Kincaid, who is a member of the Esoterics community, and Elijah, who is also a member of the Esoterics community. And they're both psychics and mediums and all that good stuff. Anyway, so they invited me to participate in this fun, like, round table. And the name of the podcast is called, like, I think I said that, Mystical and Mysteries. Mm-hmm. But the episode that I guested on it drops April 12th. So I believe that's next Friday.
Uh-huh.
And it's titled Everything Woo Woo, Astrology, Numerology, Crystals, and More. So I'm going to share that, her show art.
Oh, cool.
On the socials. But you guys be sure to check it out, because I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to, I asked them to look into. Remember, I've talked about the Brandon Mitchner, the case in Lansing, and he actually came to me and asked me to step in to deliver messages. Have I ever? I mean, I've told you about that, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I haven't really announced that to like the listener world. It's a future podcast. From the psychic's point of view, and it literally blows me away. It's a cool story. It's a true crime story, and I'm going to share it with you all this season. Okay, so just know that's coming. But I asked them to weigh in on, and they don't like names. They don't like anything. They just want pictures. That's it. They just get their information from a fucking picture. Girl.
Wow.
So I sent them a picture of Brandon, and they collectively, the three of them, nailed almost all of the details around this case. And I was like, shut up. It nailed it.
Wow.
So I would love to be able to coordinate, a guest sort of episode with them coming on and sharing that, which is really cool. But you know how I am about follow through and all that stuff, right? My 5 is like, well, what if I just, right? I get lazy. So trust me that this is in the works, but we'll learn more about Brandon in this case and everything. But this episode, there wasn't really a true crime case that they went over. She was like, all I ever do is talk about true crime and all these things, and I just want to talk about the woo, because she is a psychic, but she doesn't consider herself to be woo woo, which is really interesting because they're out there. I love
like
those
a practical
people.
Just like a practical psychic, I guess.
Yes, I don't they're just not into the mystical aspects of it, which cool. I would. That is very cool because, she is a psychic detective, so she needs to be very, practical and methodical in her approach. Anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there and watch the socials and then give her pod a listen. And for all you true crime junkies, this might be a new one for you to start listening to.
That's me. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I will definitely check that out.
Okay, now can we talk about tobacco?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, this episode is not sponsored by any tobacco company.
Nope. Smoking kills. Smoking is bad. All that good stuff. Right?
Yeah. I'm not encouraging tobacco use. I'm just here to talk about the spiritual aspects of tobacco as a plant and tobacco and ritual use. And obviously it's been pilferated and abused and through all the capitalized system, but we're not here to talk about that. I'll touch on it a little bit, just kind of how things are out of control. But other than that, I just kind of wanted to really talk about the history of it, because this has kind of come up for me. Because I'll tell you what kind of stirred this. So me growing up, my dad smoked. My dad would smoke, and he was really good about it, where he would only smoke outside and he would only smoke.
A courteous smoker.
Yeah, he was a courteous smoker. I remember he would come home from work and he would smoke a cigarette outside of our apartment and then, put it out, and then he'd come in. So he never smoked like inside our house or anything like that, or never like in, with me in the car or anything like that. He wouldn't smoke in the car, actually, because my parents, both of them are very clean. We're very clean. My mom's a neat freak, so she would never and my mom didn't smoke. Anyways, but I grew up in the age of dare, right? The 90s. So I was like, Dad, please stop smoking. This is going to kill you. You're going to have cancer and I don't want you to die. Please stop smoking. So I would tell him all the time, like, you need to stop doing that. That is wrong. It's not good for you.
It's wrong.
Judgy little daughter. I was the little 90s dare kid,
What does DARE stand for?
Dare to keep kids off drugs. Drugs and, oh God, let me look it up. Hold on. Drug abuse resistance education.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Which it worked. I mean, to an extent. To an extent. So anyway, but as I was researching this information that I just kind of earlier talked about, right, about our culture and all that, I came upon the fact that it is a native practice within our culture to smoke tobacco, but they would just smoke the actual tobacco plant, like the leaves. They would roll it in a corn husk, and that's how they would smoke it.
they would smoke tobacco in a corn husk.
Yes.
Huh, interesting.
Yes. So that's the native use of tobacco. And so once I came to understand that, I'm like, oh, okay. So at some point, it's like almost like in our DNA or like in my dad's DNA to maybe like crave tobacco or use tobacco to an extent. But then obviously because he came here, or I'm sure like the smoking habit started much earlier than that, probably when he was a teenager. But because it was so prevalent and commercialized at that point, that's why people would gravitate towards cigarettes. They're just easy, right? Whatever. You don't have to roll them.
Well, okay. And also, tobacco that is harvested, organically, and rolled in another type of leaf that is harvested and grown organically is way different than the bullshit that comes out of Philip Morris today and all of the intentionally included addictive chemicals in order to make people continue to smoke.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, I quit smoking, I don't know, gosh, how many years ago, but it was like the second or third time that I quit. And it was easiest the last time, but it was still freaking hard, man. You want the cigarettes and there's nothing like a cigarette with your coffee. Oh God, that's the best one.
See, and I briefly smoked cigarettes when I was in college, and that was because it was so stupid. It's so dumb. Like we're in college and like everyone's doing it, and like you go outside to like the quad and everyone's smoking and they think they look cool, and like it's not cool. Like it's just not. Like and we fucking stink after, and that was my big problem with it. Like I've always hated the smell. I hate that smell. So that's a no for me.
Yeah.
But but I think we all have a little bit of a story somewhere along the line. Something happens. But anyway, so that's kind of what like stirred this and got me into like, well, I want to know more of the ritual use of it and where does it come from and all that. Okay. So tobacco is one of, it's probably the most well-known of the entheogens of the plant medicines that's used in Mexican cultures. So Mexican cultures also had like their alcoholic Aztec sacrament, which they called pulque. And pulque is still around. It's a fermented alcoholic beverage, and it's made from the fresh sap, which is known as aguamiel, or it's mead. But it's made from agave.
Oh, yeah. I've had that actually before. I believe I've had like a cocktail or something.
Yeah, I don't think I have. I don't think I've had it just straight up, but I have seen it. I've definitely seen it. So so they make it out of agave. And so they use that, and they would also use the ritual tobacco. The Aztecs knew it as bisset, and then the Mayans knew it as sicar, which is where the word cigar comes from.
Oh, look at that. See, you learn good shit on the Esoterics podcast, kids. Good shit.
Yeah. So
sicar.
Sicar. So the word sicar was used by the Maya for the act of smoking, which was incorporated to their ritual and religious practices. And this has been confirmed by friezes, or the wall paintings with little smoking characters that are painted.
Oh, cute. Yeah. Cigars, by the way, are the worst smelling of all of the I hate the smell of cigars. They're
really
disgusting.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I don't mind the smell of that.
I like pipes. I think pipes smell lovely. And I don't really care for cigarettes, cigarette smoke. I don't like it. I'm one of those reformed smokers. Like if I can smell it, I'm mad. I'm like, why am I smelling your shitty habit? Right?
Yeah, gross. I don't want to do that. Yeah. So keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Tobacco is also associated in different cultures to other psychoactive plants as well, because it is used in tandem. So in Brazil, they do use it with ayahuasca ceremonies. The shaman will often smoke a pipe of mapacho, which is just their tobacco leaves, or they will give the rapé, which we'll get more into detail of that. But as an example, in Mexico, there are the chronicles written by Bernal Diaz de Castillo. He was one of the people, documented this shit. So that after a meal, Aztec King Moctezuma would offer his guests cacao and pipes filled with tobacco.
You better eat after, drink cacao after the meal. Because if you drink it before, you're not eating.
And then in the Amazon, the tobacco plant Nicotiana rustica has accompanied the inhabitants of the Americas since the dawn of time, some 18,000 years.
Wow. Wow. Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a long freaking time.
Yeah. And it's estimated that it's been cultivated and used in different ways for thousands of years, between 6,000 to 8,000 years.
Oh, well, right. Well, I guess that makes sense because how far back, ancient civilizations go.
Exactly. Yeah. And so pre-Hispanic tobacco, meaning pre-conquest, the tobacco was used in diverse ways with multiple purposes. So it was chewed, it was pulverized and inhaled, smoked, macerated, to be drunk for, and even for external use. So there's all different ways that they would use it. Cool. They would also put it in baths. They would also do enemas with it.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, explain that process. How did they get it in enema form?
So they would blow it up somebody's ass.
What?
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not administering that fucking dose.
I think you would do it to yourself if I'm not.
Ow!
Because there's actually a history of this if you really want to get deeper into this.
I mean, yes, why wouldn't we want to get deeper into this? How does one blow smoke up one's own ass?
Hold on.
Is there some curved pipe? Weirdly, oddly curved pipe?
Okay, so you know right. So you know the term blowing smoke up your ass, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is because this came from a literal thing. Okay, so one of the earliest documented references of using a tobacco enema was to resuscitate someone using a smoking pipe, and this was in 1746 that this was documented. So in this particular case, the man's wife had nearly drowned and was unconscious, and it was suggested that an emergency tobacco enema might revive her, at which point the husband of the woman took a pipe filled with burning tobacco, shoved the stem into his wife's rectum, and then covered the other end of the pipe with his mouth and blew.
That's so fucking gross. Okay, did it work?
No, of course not. That's why it's called blowing smoke up someone's ass, because it doesn't work.
This is my favorite story ever. Okay. And honestly, if he had any working knowledge of human anatomy, he would have been able to avoid the most unpleasant aspect of shoving the pipe into his wife's asshole.
At least it was his wife, and at least it was her husband. It could have been worse.
Oh my God. Okay, so the moral of the story, or the origin, is that's the origin of the phrase blowing smoke up your ass. That's awful, but also fucking phenomenal.
Yeah. So it is used in that way. It was also used to prevent or to treat physical ailments. Mainly, though, the master curanderos used it in rituals because of its psychoactive effects, and that they granted it the category of a sacred plant. Really, the psychoactive effects, though, are so, now, they are so quick, and it also depends on your dosage.
Yeah.
But the point was that this allowed them to mediate in the contact with one world versus the other because shamans or curanderos are working in different worlds. They're working here in the physical world, and then they're also in the different realms, which we've talked about the 3 stages and all that in, I think it was their ancestral veneration episode.
We've actually touched on it in a lot of different episodes, just because of not just for shamans and curanderas, but also energy workers working in the 5th and 6th dimensions and stuff like that. So yeah.
So that was the use of why. That's how they used it. That was the point of them using it as the curanderos. So in the Amazon, though, the smoking tobacco has presently just 2 connotations. So one, it's the farmers normally have the habit of going to the farm, and they use it in that way. And that's it's been hard to get work, and also it's it's the relaxing effects, but also because the smoke repels insects, which I'm like,
nice.
I'm 100% there with that one.
Yep. Down with that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, so there's that, and there's a curative use, and then the ceremonial use. So those two ways.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And then the way that it was kind of ruined.
Oh.
Yeah. So, of course, the practices of tobacco were rooted in the cultures of the America, the native cultures of the Americas, but then eventually it became disconnected from that ritual use when tobacco arrived in Europe and Asia as an exotic gift. Tobacco was cultivated in Japan as early as 1605. And then what really kind of messed things up was cigarette consumption increased significantly with the coming of the industrial era. So the first cigarette rolling machine, it was built in 1843 in France. And then after that, they could manufacture like 3,600 cigarettes per hour. And that removal or ending of the manual preparation of cigarettes, which normally was using corn husks, eventually would disappear. And then this whole industry of ready to smoke cigarettes was now available for consumers, which, opened up the doors for all the other shit we see now.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this new context, the tobacco plant had lost its medicinal and spiritual role. And then from then on, it's pretty well known what happened. Like the commercialization caused all of these harmful effects in our health due to constant cigarette smoking. And then this whole tobacco use became completely profane and recreational, and it just completely lost all rituality. And the sacred plant became a lethal poison. Yeah.
I mean, but it makes sense. Like I said, they're adding all of those disgusting, chemicals and stuff. So
yeah, and a lot of it, I'm sure, has to do with like trying to preserve the plant because it's still a plant and it can rot. So that's what happens when you commercialize something to the extent of where you use what its original intention was. So let's talk about the spirit of tobacco, because this is kind of how I use it, how I engage with it. And this is kind of, you have to come to the understanding of what the spirit. So it is believed that a spirit presides over each medicinal plant, and it corresponds to its quote unquote spiritual matrix in this world or in the invisible other worlds. So the belief is that this matrix is a live entity, and although we can't always directly perceive it unless you're like tripping really hard on mushrooms or something.
Which may or may not be, the whole point.
Right. But generally, so because of this, it's endowed its own structure or its own spirit of a specific energetic quality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then what happens is, with a person who ingests the tobacco correctly, then can manifest these virtues in these like different levels of your body, of your human self, body, mind, and spirit. Then there's an energetic community between human beings and nature. And so when you're using these plant medicines, you're essentially merging the two. They're coexisting. Certain plants reach a high degree of familiarity with human beings, and that's the case of psychoactive plants, right? Where like they essentially change like the way that you are thinking in that moment, or the way that your brain is functioning at that time. And some people believe it's because of how the structures of like our brain and stuff resemble so much to certain plants. I'm talking specifically like mushrooms. Like if you look at like a picture of the neural cells of our brain, and you look at the root structure of a mushroom, they look the same.
Oh, that is so cool. I've heard that before too.
Yeah. So it's believed that it's this intimate relation. That's the material evidence, is why you can see these similarities. And it's believed that the plant's alkaloids coincide with the neurotransmitters of the human brain, or they work in tandem with the neurotransmitters of the human brain.
That's far out stuff. That's like super esoteric. That's like, but it's really, really cool. And weren't you telling us about that movie? But there's also a book. There's like a movie on Netflix about mushrooms that sort of blew your mind. And then there was a book or something.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic Fungi.
Yep. I remember that specifically.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you haven't
Okay.
watched it, totally do. And it doesn't just talk about the psychedelic ones, because I think the psychedelic ones have their, it's one part of it, but there's just a plethora of other medicinal mushrooms that don't do anything in that way of like making you trip or whatever, but are still incredibly healing and are just so beneficial to the human body. So yeah, definitely look at that.
Or also delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what are the ones we had at our last retreat? No, we had them in Idlewild. Chanterelles?
Oh, shiitake.
No, chanterelles. The chanterelles, the chicken of the forest.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Shiitakes, they're my favorite. You know what mushrooms that I think are overrated are morels, and they're super expensive, and you have to go out and like dig them up like you're a freaking pig and or a truffle pig. And no, they're very firm. I don't know. I just don't dig them. I don't hate them or anything. I'm not slamming morels because their mushrooms are delicious. But I was like, I'd rather have a portobello or a shiitake or whatever.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had morels. I can't say I have.
Yeah. Well, if you get an opportunity,
try them.
Yeah, if you get an opportunity, get to cook them, right? Because if you get them in the restaurant, they're gonna be absorbed by all the whatever, but just,
butter.
If you have the opportunity for raw, butter and a little bit of garlic, olive oil, and just try them, and you'll be like, maybe you will. I don't know. I was like, I've had better.
So this whole understanding of how plants work with our physiology is just kind of an understanding of how these plants work. But this is also in line with the indigenous perceptions that consider tobacco a spirit with three main functions, and that is of mental clarification, strength, and protection.
I love that. That's good.
Okay, so we talked about essentially like smoking. I'm not gonna like talk about like how to smoke tobacco. I mean, we all know how people do that. Anyway,
however you want.
Yeah. Just don't do the cigarettes. We're not here to endorse that. Anyway, so one of the ways though that indigenous people or curanderos, shamans use tobacco is they do it's called a soplada, which is a blow, and this is a more common, but it's a very simple therapeutic act. And what's happening in this instance is that the curandero takes in the tobacco and then they exhale out the smoke onto the patient's body over the affected parts or the areas of energetic concentration, such as like the crown of the head or the tips of the fingers and the toes, the back of the chest. And the idea is that the tobacco smoke is charged with the curandero's energy, because in Mesoamerican belief systems, it's that your sacred essence energy, your tonali, can be passed through the breath. So it's charged with their energy, and then this acts as an extension of their energetic body, enveloping the patient's energetic body.
Very interesting.
So when you're doing this, it's really amazing. So as you're doing this, you're fusing with the energetic aura of the patient, and the curandero transmits their energetic stability, and inversely, the energetic body of the curandero absorbs the energetic disturbances of the patient, and then they can also release them again through that breath. Sometimes, though, the curandero will regulate this energy transfer by burping and sometimes vomiting.
Oh, all right.
Which that doesn't sound fun.
They're burping, but not on the patient, or
no. It's just a way of releasing.
You know what?
Energy.
I've heard that about yawning. Yawning is a way to release energy. Yes. Burping is a way to. So I've heard that before. And there's another else too, but anyway, yawning for sure. I mean,
bowel movements. Laughing is probably the
right,
the nicest one.
Not at the same time as you're having a bowel movement. No.
No. Okay, so now let's talk about in the Amazon jungle. So with them, they actually will take tobacco and finely pulverize it so that it can be inhaled or blown by the user. And it can be done by a third person blowing in again to somebody's nostrils. So the way that this is done, and so this is where we talk about rapé. So rapé is this pulverized tree tobacco, and rapé is the Spanish word for it. And it is spelled like rape, but it just has the E accent at the end. You can also use the word hapé, and hapé is Portuguese. They both mean the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the word's fault, you know. So
I know,
what it is.
Right? You just got to make sure we have the accent in there. Yeah. This is administered using one of two different tools. When you're doing self-administration, you can use a curipe, which is a small, like a V-shaped pipe. And so one side inserts into your nostril and then the other side in your mouth so that you can blow. And then there's the tepi. The tepi it just basically looks like a really long pipe. But again, so one side goes into the person that's having it administered, and then there's a person who's blowing. So that's, again, like a two-person use tool. And what is believed that happens is that during this process, it's stimulating the brain directly, since the olfactory nerve is practically a protuberance of this organ. So depending on the dose, after a few seconds or minutes, thoughts become clear and eventually a visionary stage is generated. So this violent awakening can also be followed by deep concentration and also mental clarity, calmness. So this is really good. This is why it's so commonly used during ayahuasca sessions, because sometimes with ayahuasca, it's overwhelming. There's so many thoughts. It's hard to make sense of what's going on. So that's why the hapé is administered in that time, because it helps to offer some grounding. And a lot of times it does help to induce a little bit of a purge or a lot of a purge. It just kind of depends on what stage you are in your ayahuasca journey. And so, and all that is essentially just releasing the energy. Nice. And then in certain ethnic groups in the Brazilian jungle, use a lighter version of their hapé as a modality, as a welcome rite, which that seems nice. So for themselves, though, shamans will use hapé to realign with their energy channels and with their higher self. And it helps to intensify their connection with the world and the universe. And in addition, hapé paves the way to detoxify the body and cleans out all the excessive mucus, toxins, and bacteria that could be sitting in like your nasal cavity and your throat.
Well, listen, it does that for sure. I mean, it lit my whole nose and everything else up. I was like, what? It was like, I felt like it's on fire. Now that was my experience, right? I was a first time user, and I think I took like I took a hit that that I had no business taking as a rookie is basically what I was saying. So basically it's used to cleanse, to clear, to all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
yes.
That's what it does. It sure as hell did that.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And so the way that I would recommend, if you'd like to incorporate this into your meditation or prayer practice, you can, purchase this for yourself. There are sources. We'll link our sources in the show notes. But for me, I found that hapé really helps with releasing.
Yeah.
So releasing emotional, physical, spiritual illnesses, all that stuff. It helps to ease negativity, confusion, and just really, really grounds you, and especially just grounds your mind.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to be using it during my next full moon ceremony. This is something that we're using it as a tool to help us release, because that's right. The whole point of a full moon is to allow for release.
And you will also be giving people the option of administering it to them during the retreat, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I will also have it there as well, because whenever you're using it with other plant medicines, so ayahuasca is one, right? That's obviously commonly used, but even with mushrooms, I feel like sometimes mushrooms, for me personally, like I get a little nauseous. And as soon as I take some rapé, it just helps to release that, and
To
just, it
ground
goes
you.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So one of the sources that I am going to list is Four Visions Market, and that's where I personally buy mine from. And the reason why I like them is, one, I've tried several kinds. Like I see it sold on Etsy, but honestly, like I don't trust where it's coming from. Like I don't know where is it sourced from? Is it somebody's backyard? Like who made this? So it's important for me to know, especially with something like this, because it's a sacred plant. It's a sacred tool, and I'm putting it in my body. I don't just want to get it from anywhere. But specifically with them, with Four Visions, they work directly with the tribes of the Amazon. So you know exactly what tribe made your rapé.
Yep.
So it says it will say it right on the bottle, and then 50% of their sales go directly back into the tribe.
Nice.
So
Okay.
you're helping to continue their work, and so I really like their mission statement and how they've organized everything so that they work in tandem with the actual practitioners, the shamans from the Amazon. And so what's cool too is because they have, like, I'm on their Facebook group as well, and they will occasionally have actual Zoom calls with the shamans, so you can sit there with them and they'll talk about the medicine and share things with you. So it's really nice.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So they just where are they? Where are the shamans? Are they? I mean, I know there's modern shamans and stuff. So are they modern shamans? Are they?
No, they're in Brazil. No. They're in Brazil in the Amazon.
Yes. So how are they? I would just be really fascinated to see how this is done. You know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
They even have like online courses and stuff that are taught by the shamans as well. It's all translated. They're speaking Portuguese or Quechua. It depends. And then they'll have a translator on. So
very cool. I love that. I want to see that sometime.
So that's all I had on tobacco today.
Thank you. That was really super interesting. The history, the origins, the favorite origin story ever. About the origin of
blowing
the
smoke
term
up your
blowing
ass.
Smoke up one's ass. That's legitimately my favorite moment so far. But it was nestled in all of this really cool knowledge. So I love it when you share your cultural histories. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, before we leave, wrap it up, I really want to talk about April's energy. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, first I want to preface this very quickly by saying that I don't write
astro forecast.
Yeah, like I write the energy forecast, but I don't say, oh, we're gonna have, Venus enters Gemini at this point. Like, I don't know how to tell that. And I'm not interested in that. But what I am interested in is the energy that it produces, and that's what I talk about, right? So I typically have a bunch of astrologers that I cross reference and then make notes and then put it all together in a forecast. All right, so go on my website, joefigueras.com, under the page Tools for the Modern Mystic. If it's not there, it's going to be on my blog, which is under the Tools for the Modern Mystic. And then you'll see the April forecast, the April energy forecast. And I talk about the full moon in Libra, which happens in 2 days. Fioraliz said she could already feel the energy of that.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. April 10th, Venus enters Gemini. April 19th, there's a new moon total solar eclipse in Aries. And then on April 21st, Mercury goes retrograde in Taurus. Okay. Now, as a result of all those things, some really good shit's happening this month. And I'd said this before, that in a previous post, that most astrologers, they were super hyped about March. March is going to be awesome and amazing. And March was cool. But April held way more interest for me because of the energy of April. And so, I know that if you look at it closely, if you look at all of the April forecasts that are out there and look at them closely and really see how they're going to impact you, it's going to give you a glimpse of where your life is headed over the course of the next several years. That's why April is so cool. All right. So We start the month with Mercury entering Taurus, and this is a really good time to slow down. You're going to see once you do that meditation. Let's just start with meditation. That you need to be more intentional and deliberate about the foundations that you're creating in your life. Remember, Taurus is all about comfort and stability and no risk taking or anything. It's going to bring up the fact that you need to make some changes too, if it hasn't already, which I think March probably did. So make those changes. Just start. Then we have that Libra full moon. Your girl Fioraliz is a Libra, and I am a Libra rising. So we have lots of Libra energy here. It's going to be a very healing, profoundly healing. Now, whether that's because you're feeling great about it or because it's bringing shit up that needs to be brought to the surface to heal, that just depends on your chart specifically.
So should we be looking at where Aries is or where Libra is in our chart, or both?
So I would both, because it's this full moon, it's opposite Chiron, that's your healing, and Jupiter in Aries. So yeah, you're going to want to look at all of those things. And that's why it's profoundly healing, because Chiron's in there like, oh, hey, what's up? Which nobody ever wants. Chiron. Stay home, Chiron. I don't want your bullshit right now. So basically it's gonna, the most important focus, I think, is going to be on relationships in our lives, the relationships and the people that are closest to us. It can feel a little bit intense, but as long as you're committed to growth and putting the work into that relationship, it's going to feel really, really good. And it's going to, again, give you a stronger foundation for going forward. The moon is opposite Chiron in this. And remember, I can't look at this map and go, oh, the moon is opposite in Chiron. I'm reporting the facts, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. So there's lots about the Libra full moon. So again, check out the forecast. I then talk about Venus in Gemini. Now here's why. At first I was like, I'm not going to talk about Venus in Gemini. I'm going to leave it to the astrologers. But this is going to feel like some roadblock energy. But then it's going to open up, and then we're going to start getting into the energy of my two favorite things, love and money. Okay. Yes. I'm down for that. So that Venus and Saturn is going to maybe make you feel isolated, lonely, or some stalled and stuckness in a restriction around money in some way. So if you're feeling like that thing you have your heart set on that you can't move forward, don't fall for it. Don't fall for any of it. Stay as positive as possible. Meditate, pull cards, call in your spiritual team, all of that, because that's going to change as soon as this energy moves through. Okay. And remember, and this is me, our astrology provides the specific life circumstances, details, emotions, and triggers, all that shit, to help us grow and master our soul blueprint. Okay. So honestly, if you can just remember that and sit in that truth that everything that's going on around you is to help you align and master your soul blueprint, really ground in that, it can help tremendously when reducing any feelings of personal suffering, right? Like, why is the universe fucking with me? Why is the universe keeping me from the thing? Why dost thou forsake me? Type of, energy. That's a little bit more Tole than I like to get, but I wanted to break it down. Right, Tole. Nobody wants your deep shit, Tole. Just tell us what it is. All right.
Relax.
Now, real quickly, back to the Venus-Saturn fuckery. Their involvement is about the long haul. So just know you're going to have to put in the work, but it's transformative and it's healing and then all that stuff. There's other stuff around fun and money. So read the forecast. The new moon mid-month is going to it comes in a total solar eclipse in Aries, which flips the script, right? So then Libra shit's going to come up. But Aries, this is a good one because I like eclipses and moons. I don't have a problem with them, but I know some people do, eclipse moons. But the Aries is about new beginnings, and Aries is going to give you a taste of what's coming for the rest of the year. So this is a good one, depending on what your chart supports, right? Or depending on the work that you've done. If you've been doing the work for the last 6 months, You're going to feel like, yeah, man. When I was writing this, I was like, man, fuck this full moon or fuck this new moon, right? But then I was like, wait, actually, it's about internal struggles with your own personal powers, that sort of thing. Let me see. Oh, hard conversations. That's why I was getting anxiety. They're going to have to be had. You're going to have them.
Okay.
They really are going to be very healing. And then at the end of the month, we have Mercury going retrograde and all of the stuff that brings. But you know what I mean? I think that's really cool, though, because a lot of people have pointed out that that's where we could receive some unexpected news. We're going to have to dig deep a little bit. But, yes. It's going to pay off. Mercury in Taurus, it's retrograde in Taurus. It sort of gives us the space to slow down, right? Because Taurus is like, don't rush me. I'm doing my thing. Just be patient and know that it's in the works and it's all going to come in divine timing. So that's really what's happening is Mercury in retrograde in Taurus is bringing in the need to sort of center and ground in that divine timing. And then, after that, the other cool thing about is that Mercury, after it goes, I don't know if it's retrograde or not, but I know that it's conjunct with Uranus, and that actually is going to bring in spiritual downloads, brilliant ideas and thoughts and all that stuff. So if you haven't listened to episode 80 of our podcast about spiritual downloads, listen to that before the end of the month, and it will help you when those start coming in.
Yeah. It's April 21st through May 14th is the next Mercury retrograde.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. So then by the end of April, things shift and change and we move into May. So again, that forecast is found on my blog and my website, and I'm pretty sure I linked it in both of my groups or the community, our community, but then also my business page. I'm pretty sure it's linked there, but take a minute and read it because it's super helpful.
Absolutely.
That's all I wanted to touch on.
Well, friends, that means it's time to say goodbye. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please share with a friend or on the socials. As always, you can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast and catch us on Facebook hanging out in the Esoterics Podcast community, and you'll find that under Facebook groups. This is a safe place to ask questions on all things spiritual and everyday happenings, as well as start a conversation, post a fun meme, and engage in your spiritual practices.
Thank you for hanging out with us today. Stay mystical, magical, and don't let anyone tell you what to do.
Nobody.
Bye, guys.